We ended up having a female-female threesome with him, so he got to pick another woman. It was what it was, we did it, and then maybe a couple weeks later it got brought up, it'd only be fair if we had a male, and you. So I said, okay.
Ms. Hadnot here is completely convinced that Mr. Matthews' wife is the reason why he's denying the paternity of her child. She also says that Ms. Matthews was once her best friend, but once she told her that Mr. Matthews had impregnated her, she also went ahead and got pregnant by Mr. Matthew and then married him. Mr. Matthews says he has doubts about being the father of Ms. Hadnot's child because she's known for sleeping around.
It wasn't a relationship, it was just like a friendship, and then we ended up sleeping together. But she was at the house where we slept together at.
And so she knew you were interested in him, or you guys had taken your friendship to the next level?
Yes. I feel that she just trifling because she knew from the front that we was together.
Then Mr. Matthews confirms that he had a sexual relationship with Ms. Hadnot, and then he says that he and his wife were best friends before that, but Ms. Hadnot doesn't agree with this version of events at all.
They told you they were cousins?
Yes, she said they was cousins living in the same house because he had another girlfriend at the house where they was at.
That cousin stuff, I never thought James was my cousin. I never said James was my cousin.
But she had no idea you were a threat at all because in her mind, you all were...
In the initial beginning, I was not a threat.
This seems to back Ms. Hadnot's point. She was in a relationship with Mr. Matthews, got pregnant by him, and then Ms. Matthews got into the picture. That's the problem here. Can you imagine how betrayed Ms. Hadnot must have felt when she found out that her best friend was having a baby by her baby daddy? But now to the real question. How does Ms. Hadnot know that the child belongs to Mr. Matthews and not some other person?
I slept with somebody else around the time that I slept with James, that I conceived my son. I slept with another dude, I can admit that. But I also, when James never asked me.
How many days apart did you sleep with this other man?
2 days or 3 days is one of those two.
Don't even know.
So why today are you so convinced that he's the father?
I'm not convinced.
Oh well, Ms. Hadnot. It looks like it's scientifically impossible to be sure of who the father of this child is. But Ms. Hadnot doesn't want to accept this. She says she knows who she slept with and is certain the father of her child is Mr. Matthews. However, Mr. Matthews says he knows why Ms. Hadnot is so desperate to get him to claim this child.
She's always been after money, Your Honor. It's been times where she, can you take me here? Can you take? It's always been about money, finances. She's a gold digger.
So you not only felt like she could have, well, she did sleep with the guy she admits to, you said could be some other people too that she's not admitting to.
Well, if she didn't tell me about that, what else secrets are under the closet?
Okay, then Mr. Matthews. You're a straight shooter. I like that. Mr. Matthews also says that he doubts he's the child's father because he was only called to the hospital after the baby had been born. And not only was he called after the birth, Ms. Hadnot didn't call him herself. Instead, her mother did. Mr. Matthews claims this means that they had someone else present for the birth of the child, but he must have flaked.
You told me you had slept with another
You didn't
man.
ask.
I'm supposed to know.
I wasn't in a relationship with you in the first place. You was a one-night stand, and that's what it was.
Yeah, well, so obviously if I was a one-night stand, who else was a one-night stand? So that's why I have doubt. So what kind of woman is that, Your Honor?
And Terry knew the whole time her dang self.
I knew that she was pregnant because, like I said, we were friends. We were close.
Mrs. Matthews, do you know how unlikely and impossible it is to mistakenly sleep with someone without protection, mistakenly get pregnant, mistakenly having that baby, and then mistakenly marry them? There's no way you didn't mean that. Nobody can make that many mistakes at a stretch. You meant it, and you did it, and now we are here to deal with it.
My everything. Terry was my heart. I was there for Terry through all her stuff.
And
no matter what. Her grandma, through everything. When her grandpa, all that, I was there for Terry.
Yes, she was.
And she was there for me, but she betrayed me. So what type of friend is that? No matter what I did or what I did wrong, she was supposed to have my back no matter what.
Ms. Terry Matthews is the sort of friend you never want to have. She might wake up one day and mistakenly set your house on fire, and then come to court and say it was all an innocent mistake and that she didn't mean to pour gasoline on your roof. That's the sort of thing she might say.
Ms. Hadnot, your best friend comes to you and says, I'm pregnant by the same guy too? What did you think?
To tell you the truth, Your Honor, and I told her straight up, you know what? You can have that, because I never wanted him.
So what was the big deal in the first place? You never wanted me. You pushed me away.
It don't matter.
Since
That was my
school.
best friend. You made me lose my best friend because
I didn't
of you.
do nothing. I didn't do nothing. You didn't want me.
Mr. Matthews is just acting obtuse here. Does he really think that Ms. Matthews and Ms. Hadnot were going to remain best friends after he got them both pregnant? How would that even work? And now to make things worse, Ms. Matthews is telling Mr. Matthews that Ms. Hadnot's baby might not be his. So Ms. Matthews is basically betraying her best friend over and over and over and over again. But Ms. Matthews says that's nothing but a lie.
I get on James when he get into his feelings about his doubts. And I'll get to saying, James, let's go get Jamari. Let's do this and let's do that. I push that. I'm the one that goes to the door, picks up Jamari, and does that stuff.
To do it.
I've
He should
never
be a man
done.
and come tell me himself.
Horrible, horrible behavior from Mr. Matthews. And it gets worse because the 4-year-old in question is old enough to ask serious questions about his father.
So, Ms. Hadnot, in your statement to the court, you stated that you're trying to break a cycle. You want to make sure your son has his father.
Yes, because
you-
my son asks me all the time. He always asks. He even knows everything that's going on. And it's bad when a 4-year-old can come to you and say, Mama, why my daddy don't want me? Why my daddy want a DNA test for me?
That's right. There's no reason an innocent child should be suffering because of the mistakes adults make. At this point, you sort of feel sorry for Ms. Hadnot and may think that the child...
Mr. Matthews, you are the father.
Thank you. I told you. I hate you. I promise.
Okay, you can hate me.
I'm done. I don't want my son to be around you.
Hold on. Now, Ms. Hadnot, you just stood here and said that you want to break the cycle. You didn't have a
broke it.
father in your life.
Yes.
is Ms. Nadeau is the sort of woman you don't want to know or meet. She slept with her partner's best friend and then told him about the affair on Christmas Eve. The affair was bad enough, but what made it worse was the revelation that the best friend in question, Mr. Zara, may be the father to 2-year-old Cameron. Mr. Santilli, Ms. Nadeau's partner at the time, took the news badly as anyone would, and it took 2 years for him to mend his broken heart. In any case, he's here now to see whether Cameron is his child.
I'm gonna break down. It's been over a year and a half. I had to convince my 4-year-old how he doesn't have a younger brother no more. I had to convince myself that he wasn't my son.
Oh my goodness. So, Ms. Nadeau, what happened?
His grandfather was sick and passing away, and he decided in a text message he was going to tell me that I was too good for him.
Mr. Santilli is completely shattered by the betrayal of Ms. Nadeau, and you start to feel pity for him. But as strange as it might be, Ms. Nadeau might have a good explanation for betraying her boyfriend that way. You see, Mr. Santilli had broken up with her saying that she was too good for him. He says he did this because his grandfather was passing away and he was mourning, but Ms. Nadeau has a different recollection of those events.
So I continued to go and see his grandfather while he's in the nursing home getting sicker, starting to pass away. The day he passed away was the day his best friend told me.
And so, this is the best friend you ended up sleeping with.
Yes.
So, how did that happen?
The day that he passed away, I was holding his hand, and Tom was standing, Mrs. Zara was standing behind me.
And you guessed it, it was this best friend, Mr. Zara, that Ms. Nadeau had eventually slept with. The crazy thing is that Mr. Santilli had no idea of this at the time, and Ms. Nadeau slept with Mr. Zara on the very day Mr. Santilli's grandfather passed away. And guess what? Ms. Nadeau came with Mr. Zara to the funeral. Yes, all of this happened without Mr. Santilli being aware that they were sleeping together.
You don't really know who the father is.
No, I can't say.
You know, I always thought there was a code that, you know, if you have a best friend, they don't sleep with your girl or any girl you dated. Look, unless it's been years or you get prior approval.
Generally speaking, you should not sleep with your best friend's girlfriend or any girl they've been in a relationship with. But somehow, Mr. Zara and Ms. Nadeau forgot all about that. Ms. Nadeau says 2 consenting adults can do whatever they want. That's fair, but it also means 2 consenting adults often have to drag themselves to paternity court. You can't play the game and then say, you don't like the results. It doesn't work that way.
He just lost a person that meant everything to him.
No,
I'm his
because
ex. Maybe sleeping with his best friend wouldn't be the best idea?
Absolutely not. Because if I mattered so much to him.
But again, Ms. Nadeau makes a solid point. If she was so important to him, he wouldn't have left her. Anyway, consenting adults do what they have to do, and now all 3 of them are in court to get this sorted once and for all. Let's hear a bit from Mr. Zara, the best friend in question.
I have to ask you, how do you end up sleeping with your best friend's girl? Grandfather
He told me to do
passed
it.
away.
He told me specifically in his house, yo, I don't care about this girl. I have another girlfriend. He just sat there and lied. and said,
Them words never left
Yes,
my
they
lips.
did. I was
with the girl
standing
upstairs,
right
bro.
there.
Hold up. Known better? Okay, yeah, maybe Mr. Zara should have known better. I'm willing to concede that. But do you know who also should have known better? Mr. Santilli, for breaking up with his girlfriend for a random girl. That's who should have known better. And if he had known better, maybe none of them would be in paternity court. Just maybe.
So hold on, Mr. Santilli, let me ask you this. When you found out Ms. Nato was pregnant,
At first, I did not believe the child was mine. No, I denied it to the fullest, yes.
Okay, glad
At
you
first.
admitted it.
did you know she
No, I
had
did not
already
know. I
slept
did not
with
know
Mr.
that they were sleeping
Zara?
together.
Hold
They
on.
both
He
denied
asked
it.
me at his house. He said, yo, bro, Kayla just told me that you had sex with her.
It's getting real feisty here. Mr. Santilli says he didn't know the child could belong to Mr. Zara until 2 years later, but Ms. Nadeau denies this and says even when he was cutting the umbilical cord, Mr. Santilli knew that the baby might not be his.
His firstborn, everybody said he looked just like Dino, but I wasn't too sure. I just kind of kept my mouth shut because I thought, maybe it's my guilt. I thought it was just me who thought he looked like Tom. The more people that came out the woodwork, the more people would tell me, he doesn't really look like Dino anymore. He doesn't really look like Dino anymore. And the older he got, the more and more he looked like Tom.
This is getting a lot more complicated than it was at the beginning. Ms. Nadeau today thinks that the likely father of the child is Mr. Zara because she claims the baby looks a lot like him and even behaves like him. That's all well and good, but it's not a DNA test. Unfortunately, Mr. Santilli had already developed a bond with this child.
She didn't just say he's not yours. She said it ruthlessly. She said, how do you feel you're holding your best friend's kid, you loser? Which is why I snapped, which is what led to my incarceration.
That is not what I said.
That's exactly what she said.
Thank you.
Right there.
Thank you.
She tried to air the dude out.
Okay, Ms. Nadeau. Now that's just too much. However, Ms. Nadeau defends this by saying she's a single mother who can do whatever she wants. That's one of the coldest things I've ever seen on paternity court. Anyway, things went south and Mr. Zara started taking up fatherly responsibilities for Cameron. Today, Cameron calls him Dad and calls Mr. Santilli by his name.
Cameron, your only child?
No.
They have another baby together, too.
We have a daughter together.
Which we?
Me and Mr. Zara, and I have another.
And you're not together?
No.
What is going on with you? What happened that would lead you to be in this position?
I don't know. It's a disaster. I truly believe Cameron Soms.
Not only did Mr. Zara sleep with the ex-girlfriend of his best friend, he also made sure she got pregnant for him, specifically even after knowing the sort of mess he was in with Cameron and his best friend. You know what? Doing that takes the sort of chutzpah that you hardly find amongst people today. Many friends betray their friends and hide it, but Mr. Zara is not scared of his betrayal. He owns it. And yes, Mr. Zara still isn't with Ms. Nadeau. She's still a single mother. It's the worst.
What is going on with you? What happened that would lead you to be in this position?
I don't know. It's a disaster. I truly believe Cameron Soms. And the only reason I even want to do this is because I just need everybody to move on and let the past be the past. Dino shouldn't be responsible for a child that's not his.
Yes, it's a disaster. And the only thing that can save this disaster is to find out who the real father of Cameron is. Is it Mr. Santilli or Mr. Zara?
That Cameron's biological father is Mr. Santilli. Want to sit down or are you okay standing? What's wrong? Are you upset, relieved?
I didn't think he was his.
You didn't think he was his?
I really didn't believe that.
Do you know that feeling when your best friend goes running to your boyfriend to tell them all about your different escapades with other men? Well, Miss Stremke knows that feeling very well. Her friend told her partner, Mr. Jaramillo, about her different trysts with other men. And now Mr. Jaramillo doubts that both of his children by Miss Stremke are his. And oh, Mr. Jaramillo had a threesome with Miss Stremke and his best friend, and it was unprotected. And there was a baby born out of that incident. Of course, Mr. Jaramillo says that child isn't his as well.
Your Honor, I feel like my family is falling apart because my daughters are basically growing up how I had to. We didn't have both parents, and even when we did have both parents present at different times, we were denied. I feel like they can't trust their dad because he denies that he's their dad half the time, and my 4-year-old Naviana knows. She can hear the, well, I'm not her dad anyway.
That's right, Miss Stremke. Children are extremely perceptive, and you don't want your child growing up in that sort of situation. Mr. Jaramillo says this is regrettable, but he really can't do anything about it since the paternity issues get brought up in fights. You know what you can do about that issue, Mr. Jaramillo? Stop fighting with your partner in front of your kids. It solves all of your problems quickly.
When you got pregnant with the oldest daughter, Naviana,
What was the issue surrounding her paternity?
I had just gotten out of a relationship with my son's father and had moved back to Iowa. Well, I ended up where I had slept with another man. And this is before me and Mr. Jaramillo had gotten together. But it was very, very shortly after that we got together.
Now, Mr. Jaramillo hadn't met this friend before, but he believed every word of what she said. Ms. Stremke, of course, knew the friend in question and argued that it was all a lie.
Which I really don't understand, because how can you base your daughter's paternity off of some girl you had never even met?
Well, it was one of your friends, you know, you'd spent time with her.
What did she say to you exactly, Mr. Jaramillo?
She said that the baby that Ms. Stremke has been impregnated with wasn't mine, that she had been sleeping with numerous males.
Another thing is that Ms. Stremke and Mr. Jaramillo had only been together for about a month before Ms. Stremke told him that she was pregnant. To make things worse, Naviana was born about 3 weeks early, which makes it seem like the child truly doesn't belong to Mr. Jaramillo. Instead, it's for the man Ms. Stremke slept with before meeting him.
So in addition to the phone call, then she was born 3 weeks earlier than expected. So if you counted back 3 weeks, that's about the time when
That was about the time that the other males were present.
I was upfront with you and told you that there was one other person before we had gotten together.
You said one other person, and then came another fellow that your best friend told me about.
What about the second daughter? What doubts does Mr. Jaramillo have about her? And exactly how did he get those doubts? The answer will probably surprise you.
And then it was maybe a couple weeks later it got brought up, it'd only be fair if we had a male, and you. So I said, okay, all right, that's fine. It's something new and everything. And I had changed my mind on it and decided, because I have so many like body issues, not like in the way I look after I've had a child and everything, that I decided no.
Mr. Jaramillo's friend didn't come over for pancakes. He came over for a different sort of cake. Mr. Jaramillo invited his friend to have intercourse with his wife, and none of the 3 people involved used any sort of protection. Imagine if they did. It would have protected both of them from showing up in paternity court today.
To have a threesome with your children's mother.
Yes, ma'am.
Was this your suggestion, sir?
It was a mutual suggestion between Amber and I. We had gone through it back and forth between Ms. Stremke and I. It was a toss-up back and forth. One minute she'd want to do it, the next minute she didn't. And from being with Amber, I know if she's going to do something, it has to be on the spot.
Look, if you want to spice up your marriage, here's some good advice. Don't invite other people into it. If you want to get more excitement in your marriage, go see a movie. Get on a jet and go for a vacation. Don't invite your buddy into your bedroom and then not tell him to use a condom. Anyway, let's find out who the real father of the child is.
Mr. Jaramillo, you are the father.
Oh my God, this is so good. This is so good.
You look so relieved.
I am.
The fact that having sex without protection and inviting other people into the relationship, you know, it's not monopoly. It's not better with more people.